I'm curious if it's going to be more competitive than last year. I feel like last year ended up being very special. And I don't know if we quite saw that coming. And then like all of a sudden as the day played out, it's like, there's a lot of people still here.
I'm
it's
sure
like,
Finn probably said something in a pre-race episode.
yeah, Finn was like 10 guys, 5 guys would be under 15, and we're like, you're full of it. And then all of a sudden,
Finn had a good year last year in his outlandish predictions.
I took my victory lap.
Yeah.
So, like the surprise, the wild card last year was Rod. Mm-hmm. You know, we saw
and Caleb.
Yeah. I think up front at the front end.
Caleb wasn't winning the race.
Yeah. Like Rod, I think was a surprise for a lot of people. I think his Canyons performance was exceptional, and then what he did at Western States last year, like I think really like inspired a lot of runners. I think it made people question like what should my approach to this race be, and that just took one runner to really change that race dynamic. I love like looking back at the splits and seeing as you're climbing up to Devil's Thumb, like where Jim is, where Rod is, where Hayden and Dan Green were. Rod like really went and mixed it up quite a bit. So like there are runners in this field this year that I think want to do that.
Yeah. Should we do it? We got rolling right now.
Hey, is Jeff familiar?
I'm familiar.
Finn, wait, let us know when Finn can set the stage. All right.
We're in a unique partnership with You Boy Scott Jurek, and instead of the hot seat, we're calling it the Scott seat, where they interrupt the chat with a question. We must drop everything and address it. And the question here is, if we were to take the entire 2025 men's field and send them back in time to the 2004 Western States race, how much is Scott Jurek winning by? By the way, I think this is a good question. I have a couple of things to say, but what do you guys think?
Oh,
There's some major variables we got to address here.
Are we using 2004 training principles,
are
technology?
they cooling their heads in buckets of ice and coolers?
No, the buckets hadn't been invented yet.
Oh, they
in
hadn't been
2004.
invented yet. Okay. How about water bottles? Have they been invented yet?
But the plastic ones, like the bad ones for you.
Yeah. Okay. Like duct tape to
And they're
your
eating
hands.
power
Bad
bars.
water.
Okay.
Oh, whoa. Weren't those the yellow ones, the aqua amphipods? Those are like some of the best water bottles made.
They're actually
Yeah.
still
I think
legit.
Emily
They're-
Hawgood still uses
Jim
those at
still
Western
uses
States.
the Amphipod.
Yeah, that's a great water bottle.
Um,
Some things, have lasting power, and amphipods have lasting power.
Scott's probably winning by like 20, 25 minutes. I think the one thing I learned from Scott's 7-year reign of Western States was that there was just no one to push him.
I think there would be people to push him, but if you were to take this field, bring it back to 2004, let's just say it's 2004 training and stuff, then we're just reintroducing Jim to the field. And so if we're saying Jim is the undeniable winner this year, it was his race to lose if he was in it. I think if we're going 2004, it's Scott's race to lose.
How many cumulative carbs do you think Scott would consume in 2004?
7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I also want everyone else to stay the
olive
same
oil.
age. I want everyone else to stay the same age, but I want Killian to be how old he was in 2004.
I was
that's
just
good.
that's what I was counting on my fingers. I was like, I think
so. Killian's like
13.
13. I think Killian could be
probably
a
still winning.
contender.
He would be a contender for the podium for
Yeah.
sure.
Could Killian
That's a great
run
question.
1 hour at Western States for every year he's been on the planet? So he's like, I am 13. 13 hours. In
Do we have any
2004.
40-year-old Masters runners in the elite men's field this year that would have been 1920? Andrew Miller, Jared Hazen age.
Oh,
Tyler Green's out.
Yeah.
Well, Debo would have been like 19 or 20 in 2004.
He's a little younger.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he's not in this race.
Yeah.
He's younger than that.
well, Jeff
David
Browning.
Roche might have been 18.
Oh yeah, Jeff Browning.
Jeff Browning.
Jeff Browning
actually.
probably would have.
David Roche, I think,
Been
is
somewhere in there.
and Killian are the same age.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
both like 37.
Dude, I think Jeff Browning
Oh, wasn't it
stock
David's
goes up a lot
birthday?
if you throw
Yes,
it back
right.
to 2004. Like the age you are in 2004
Yeah.
racing states. Like most of these people are screwed.
Happy birthday, David Roche. I think it was just your birthday.
Yep.
37.
Okay.
I think this is worth it. So
That's good too.
Mike has a good question here. Is there anyone in the Western field who could beat Killian at Sears and all? So I guess this is kind of like a transference question.
No.
No. Next.
Great question.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no, that's a good point. Like it's like undeniably no one's beating Killian at Sierras and all. if that's the case, he's fast enough to win Western States.
Does anyone have a faster mile than Joe McConaughey in this field?
On paper?
Yeah.
Or no, not on paper.
People in the
like
live
on a
chat,
track.
keep bringing the questions. We love it. Keep bringing the questions, including your boy.
I don't know. How?
4:03.
Okay.
That's probably faster than Adam Peterman.
I mean, just like throwing it out there, like if we're
Yeah.
talking Western States as a
That is
as
actually
a foot
amazing.
race, like,
Everyone's like Joe McConaughey, the through hiker. I'm like, Joe McConaughey, the 4-minute miler.
Yeah.
yeah. He's got range, man. It's so impressive. You want to dive into another one of your topics?
Well, so in terms of my notes, I had 4 different categories for the runners.
Okay.
Oh,
Because I started writing down the
okay.
names.
Taking Leah's playbook, I get it.
Yeah, okay. Copycat.
Do you want to read them? I have runners who've raced Western States in the past. States rookies, but have raced hundreds. States rookies, and it's also their 100-mile debut. And then the Cocodona crew.
You want to go through those? Because I think this is an interesting
And
categorization.
not everyone is listed amongst these categories,
Okay.
but it's like most
Most
of the
people,
like heavy
yeah.
hitters.
I want to dive in. I just want to also tell you, like, this is just the men's preview, so we will get into the women's race in the tomorrow
Yep.
preview
Got a whole
episode.
dedicated episode.
Women's race is going to be awesome.
Yep.
Today we're just talking about the men's race.
Yeah. So the returners who've raced Western States in the past, we have Killian. Oh, this is in no particular order either. Dan Jones, Rod Farvard, Chris Myers, Adam Peterman. I have Dan Jones twice.
I mean,
Is
you
that
should.
right?
He raced
Dan
yeah.
Jones again, and Ryan Montgomery. And then
With 2 previous winners, Killian and Adam.
and then Jeff Browning should actually be also in that category. I just have him in my Cocodona crew.
Was Caleb in that category?
That's who should have been in there instead of the second Dan Jones. I get them mixed
They're
up.
basically the same.
I know.
Dan Jones.
So okay, I'm gonna put that there so I don't keep mistakenly saying Dan Jones. So we have Caleb Wilson, not Caleb Jones.
So then 100 milers, but not Western States experience.
David Roche, Jeff McGavro, Adrian McDonald, Hannes Nomberger, Vincent Bouillard.
Okay, that's
There's
a good
some
group.
serious range of the 100 milers that they've run too.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
We've
From
got, like,
like
some
as
Javelina
flat as
people.
it gets to, UTMB champions.
Yeah, and Hannes he's had some good UTMB results.
Yeah.
And then UTMB champ, like some.
Couple
what'd you
Leadville
say,
champs.
Adrian had 3 of the fastest.
I think 3 of the top 6 Leadville times is in
Yeah.
his 3 performances there. I think Adrian's runs 600s and won 5 of them.
Wow, that's a good stat.
Yeah. The one that he hasn't won was UTMB. And I know after that race, he was like, if this is what trail running is, I don't know if this is like what I want to do. UTMB, I think, was just very different from his bread and butter. Adrian is really good at runnable terrain. So, like, having trained with him and raced him before and seen him race, like, I think Western States suits Adrian pretty well.
So then I also have the States rookies, and it's their 100-mile debut. Seth Ruling, Hans Troyer, Peter Frauno, which is also like interesting. And someone correct me if Peter has run 100, but I looked back like quite a few years and results, and I think the longest race he'd done was like about 11 hours.
Can you sell me on Peter Frauno right now? I know
can sell
very
you
little.
on.
Yeah, tell me.
Go for it.
I mean, I only know of him from Transvolcania this year. Won the race in some of the most ridiculous conditions. I think like half the elite field dropped halfway through. The island had some of the craziest weather this year. Matt Daniels was in it. And there was a Boulder Boys show 2 months ago.
He
where
didn't even put a jacket on.
didn't even like go to his cold weather gear during the race. But incredibly tough. Apparently can get through like any conditions.
He split Hayden and Adam Peterman at CCC last year.
Yeah.
That's where he got his golden ticket at. It was just like,
Yeah, I knew that.
so.
Yeah,
That's like just in the recent year, he's like proven that he's like can compete at the very top of the
Part of a
sport.
really strong international contingent though. Hannes, him, list goes on.
Here's my generalization about the Euros, though. I think there's some benefits to being at Western States in recent years, or being at U.S. golden ticket races in recent years. And I'm curious how fast the aid station transitions will be for some of those people like Hannes, Peter, and then a few people on the women's side, but also just like enduring the heat mitigation strategies. I'm really curious to see how those groups manage that.
Hannes looked pretty good at canyons
He did
this
great.
year in terms of aid station transitions, which I think is going to be like a huge advantage for him going into Western States. Is he got to like basically go through the American aid station and like
Experience.
see it, and on the Western States course too.
But in like, as Finn would call them, Arctic tundra conditions.
It's true, yeah. Didn't have to do the ice
Arctic
thing.
in the late stage climate change sense of the word.
Yes.
Melting icebergs.
Wet glaciers.
And then Cocodona crew.
The Cocodona crew, so we got Harry Schubertus, 2024 Cocodona champ, Dan Green, 2025 Cocodona champ, who got in off the wait list, Jeff Browning, who was second in 2024, and then Joe McConaughey, who was the 2022 Cocodona champion.
That's a fun
I
category.
think that's kind of a fun race itself, and like,
I think the other thing to say about Jeff Browning is he has more top 10 finishes than anyone in this field. You know, it's been a little while since he's been in the top 10, but man, there was a while where Jeff Browning was just
He's consistent.
knocking him down.
What's
Yeah.
his fastest time in the top 10? Do you know?
15, I think it's somewhere around 15:45.
it's
Okay.
like pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be gunning for the 50 plus age group record, which is 18.
And the last year he was in the top 10, it was 19. And I remember watching it, there were 3 guys on the track at the same
Wow.
time. It was like him, Kyle Pietari, and maybe Cody Reed.
That would have been
was it-
20. That would have been before 2019.
Wait, was it 18 then maybe? But he had one of those years was just an insane
2018.
like, final 400 story.
Yeah.
So that's a good question in the chat. I do believe Tyler Green set the Masters CR last
which is
year.
40 plus, so
15:03.
Yeah.
02,
Yeah. So 15:03. So Jeff would have to run like 40 plus minutes faster than his fastest time at Western States in order to get the 40 plus.
I'm a huge Jeff Browning fan. I don't see that happening.
He will. I think he will run under Stephen Moore's 50
plus.
plus
Me
time,
too.
which is I think 18 and
That's-
change.
Yeah. And we will have Jeff in studio later on this week too.
yeah. So who's going to run the fastest of this Cocodona crew?
Okay, yeah, I think Joe or Dan. I think where I'm seeing that battle fall apart is Dan Green's recovery right now. He bounced back into training like impeccably, it
Yeah.
seemed. I think he's just a workhorse when it comes to mileage, so he can get back out there and and he's young and he just doesn't seem that
Rubber bones.
he doesn't seem that impacted by the volume. But honestly, I've been impressed by what he's put together since Cocodona, so I'm going to go with Dan Green, but I think the Dan-Joe battle might be an interesting one to follow.
I think that's going to be a super interesting one. I totally want to believe in Dan Green, and I do believe in him, but I think Joe's focus on this race, I think when it comes to the flat running miles after the river, it's really going to be like who has the more life in their legs, and I might lean toward Jeff or Joe on that one. But
I'm really curious. Yeah, it's going to be.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see where Harry throws himself in this, because like he was not afraid to take Cocodona out. Very,
Hot.
very fast.
Very
this
fast.
year.
Wow, if he led to the escarpment.
I mean, dude, man.
Well, that's a
Yeah.
fun hypothetical.
And I don't know if Harry's run Western States before, so I'm just curious.
I don't
think
where
he
he
has.
is in like a 100-mile setting like this. But I think I'm going to go with Joe on this one, just because of the sole focus. I think if Dan hadn't run Cocodona this year, I think I might put Dan over Joe. But just because Dan has a Cocodona in his legs this year, I think I'm going to put Joe as the top runner for the Cocodona crew.
I'm just in this, at least as a spectator, I am in this era where I no longer know what to believe in terms of recovery because, and again, we didn't get a chance to talk with her today, but like the recovery that I've seen out of Tara Dower in the last 8 months, going from Appalachian Trail to Black Canyon to Sonoma to Western, theoretically she could be at Hard Rock in 3 weeks, then she could be on the Long Trail and then racing Mammoth 200. Like
Oh my God.
people just have, it seems like we're in this new era where I don't know what's happening, but people are recovering in fast enough time to be on the start line, apparently ready to
Carbs.
carbs.
Yeah,
Shoes.
Shoes.
that's crazy. I don't get it either.
But like that would be one of the most, that would to, in me, from my standpoint, setting aside the victories, just making it across those races, it would rival like Courtney's year, like what Tara's doing, for example. I know we're going to talk about the women's race tomorrow.
Yeah.
Insane.
Who's top of the escarpment? First the top.
Well, you guys brought up Harry's name, and it made me think about at Run Rabbit a few years back when they had the prize to the top of the first climb of Run Rabbit, and then if you finish the race, you get the extra like $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever. And it was Harry there, I believe.
Oh.
So he's no stranger to pushing like the first climb of a race.
Can we get someone to cough up like $1,000 check to the first person
Seriously.
at the top of the escarpment, unrelated to Western States?
That was so good.
I like
love
this
that.
comment that Finn would be so screwed if he was running Western States this year. Probably from a recovery standpoint from Cocodona, is that what Mike's implying?
Well, I wonder if
Was that also implying that Mike's running Western
yeah.
States?
What if Mike? We need the follow up. Are you and I racing? if Mike and I are racing Western this year, what are our finishing times? And who's winning?
Who's first to the escarpment?
Who's first to the escarpment?
Who's more torched right now, Mike from Snowdonia?
Mike is
or
torched
you
off
from
Mike is
Snowdonia.
pretty
Cocodona?
torched right now, yeah.
Would that be the most boring race ever?
It'd be terrible.
Just like
It'd be
you two
terrible.
going out at like 18-hour pace and then like fading to 22. And you're like, sick, guys. Like, so exciting.
Okay, top of the escarpment. Who? I think Harry or Hiroki Kai
David Roche.
or David Roche.
100%.
That's a good one.
I was going to say my dark horse for top of the escarpment is Ryan Montgomery.
Yeah,
No.
that's actually a great bet.
Really?
Totally.
don't think
Oh my gosh. At least 2 years ago at training camp, Ryan Montgomery crushed us on the Devil's Thumb climb. And it was him setting the pace and
Yeah, I can see
just
it.
like buried us. But yeah,
He was there last year, 2/3 of the way up. He was there with Walmsley.
Yeah, here's my take on the top of the escarpment, in the guys race at least. If you are trying to send a message that you're not here to mess around and you're going to control the tone of the race, like Rod did kind of last year, like that's a pretty good way to do it.
That's why I think it'll be David.
And I think David would make sense. I actually think Ryan's a great bet too. Ryan has a ton of fitness. I've been so impressed by his training this year.
I guess I just see Ryan, and we saw this at Canyons this year. He ran like a very controlled race, and didn't seem to like put himself out in it, and moved his way up really nicely throughout the race. And ends up getting that fifth place slot that ended up rolling down to him there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
His pre-race interview with Dylan Bowman on Freetrail, he kind of talked about how he would like to put himself in it a little bit more at this year's Western
I think
States.
Dan Jones is in that spot as well
Yeah.
in terms of like putting himself in it. And again, like if you are trying to send the message that like once we hit the single track and Western States Trail at the top of the escarpment, I'm setting the pace and this is my race to control, you got to be in that
it's a
position.
stressful spot to be in. So when you crest the escarpment, you have like a really cruisy downhill right off the bat.
Great P tree right in the right.
Yeah.
Stop P after all the.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Best views. But then, like, it's not technical terrain up there, but it's like more
Don't
technical
tell Pat Ragnall that.
than some of the later terrain in Western States. So I do think whoever's leading the charge, if they're not the strongest technical runner, that would be anxiety-inducing and pretty stressful.
See, that's why I think David would want to get over first, so that way he's got the clear field of view, and someone would have to like actively work to get around him. Like, I could even see him trying to get like 5-10 second gap over the top, just so he can have a little bit of runway to settle into the descent. Because if he gets stuck in a train, like historically he hasn't had the strongest of ankles, and like we've seen some falls and some ankle rolls like right in that first mile over the top of the escarpment. So.
It's a little bit past, like, just to describe it, I know they're doing a reroute and it'll be rerouted, I think maybe next year even. But the Western States Trail in the high country, right after the escarpment, it's totally buff and then it drops into the woods. And what you have is like a marshy, rocky environment. And
It's weird.
You kind of have these like harsh dog legs where you run down a steep, rooted, rocky like section. You run through some like false hellebore and green, like bushy, and then you run up streams. And then you kind of just repeat that. And so your like feet are guaranteed getting wet. The downhills are pretty like, they're punchy, they're quick, but they're definitely spicy. And that green like vegetation and growth, it's raining out right now. I'm sure it's pretty lush up there. is it kind of blocks what you can see. So like, it's actually nice being out front. I have routinely through that section, like tried to be at the back of one of the packs, like far enough back that I have a full runner's visibility like in front of me. So like outside of the snow year where no one could really find the course and you could just like sprint in front of people, it's not that easy to pass. You're only really passing folks if they're stepping off to go to the bathroom or like someone's really easing up. I think John Albin like, forced his way past last year because like we were maybe losing a step on the front pack. So as far as like, is the footing that key? I think there's strategy in being out front, whether that's David kind of taking that or anyone else trying to like set the pace of the race. I think David's got a good reason to want to set the pace of the race. If he might be the only one, regardless of temperatures, we still are honing in on that final temperature. He's already saying that his spreadsheet's low 14s.
Who do you think are the three most comfortable people in the high country there?
Caleb Olson.
Jeff McGavro.
Killian. Those three.
Killian, Caleb, Jeff.
Yeah, that's what I would probably choose. I think Adam Peterman's pretty comfortable up there. I think so is Rod. I just see
Probably Peter Frano.
yeah.
Peter Frano too. Yeah, I think those six that we just named they'd be the ones who I think would be the least amount of stressed.
They could get to Robinson flat in the lead pack, probably having burned the least amount of matches if it's like aggressive.
But where it comes down to, I think Rod excels on like the super like long. He's just such a strong climber and like durable descender. I think Adam's the same. Like I think on the more runnable terrain, Adam is like stronger, faster. I think that's probably where David comes in too.
Quick update. We got to thank Jay Runner for their selfless donation to the top of the escarpment fund.
Oh, nice.
Let's keep the funds coming.
We should just hand out dollar bills up there.
Yes.
You got any big checks left over from Twisted Fork?
And this is a great question. Chris Andrews asks, who do you think had the most, for those of us that were looking at Strava, who do you think had the most unconventional build to this race? He posed it between Dan Green and Ryan Montgomery, but across the board, did anyone stand out to you as an unconventional build for this race?
I think David Roche is unconventional.
Yeah.
It was like heavy on the speed work, somewhat light on the volume, shy of a couple big weeks, very workout focused, not a ton of like trail or mountain time.
See, that's like, I don't think that is unconventional. I think like often, like I would put that in the category of quote unquote boring training, which I think is really effective. Like I've heard Katie Scheid describe her training as boring before, of like, yeah, I'm doing
It's
workouts.
boring and massive. David's is like boring and kind of small.
I don't know. I mean, for me, 80 miles a week is like pretty like, I think that's plenty
It's
for a
good enough
Western
for
States
Western
build.
States.
Yeah, I do. I think unconventional is an interesting one. Maybe the heat suit
the
element of
heat
David's
suit,
was pretty
all the
unconventional.
Yeah. But okay, one of my themes that I wanted to bring into our conversation today was just the transparency versus non-transparency of runners and their builds. And I think there's a lot more heat training, not at the David Roche level going on, but there's a lot more heat training going on that we are not seeing as visibly in this field.
Yeah, right. So even like in the context of Strava Dark and Strava Light, like showing us your training versus not, we're not seeing everyone's training.
Yeah.
What we're seeing from Killian's really impressive, right? But what we're seeing for heat training, like I'm seeing David be pretty outspoken and like, transparent about his heat training. I'm also seeing that from like Adam Peterman's been in the ice fishing tent, like biking, in a hot environment numerous times.
I gotta read this comment. Boring and small is what every guy loves to hear.
And kind of small.
Kind of small. Thank you.
I will say I did see that Rod on Strava. He everybody has the new heat sensors. Everybody's using those. I saw Hannes.
The core.
Yeah, Caleb, Rod,
Gosh,
David,
I'm so behind.
Adam. I know. That's why I'm like nervous for my return to the sport because I'm like, gosh, I don't even know what I'm going to be doing next.
This is like the pill you swallow?
Yeah.
Is this the thing you guys use?
or
no?
No, it just clips onto like
Okay.
your shorts. Or
Okay, not the thing
Not that one,
not the
no.
study you were doing at
Correct.
Lululemon
So
Further-
everybody is like very in touch with what their core champion, their core temperature champion
Yeah,
status
you get a
is.
score.
Yeah.
They gamified the
Yeah.
app.
Did Caleb reach champion status today?
heat training.
I
No,
know,
he's
I know
working
Caleb
towards
was like 99%
Yeah.
yesterday, and
But
I
my
know
question is like,
Rod was a heat daddy as of this week, so.
who is to say that they are right? This core.
Correct, that's what I'm wondering, like who is the
Is it like-
standardization?
Yeah, who are they to tell me that I'm a heat
Callers.
champion?
Yeah.
What if I've already decided that I was a heat champion? Maybe I don't need them to
Yeah.
decide that.
Mike's got a comment in there. Last year's men's race might have been the biggest lead pack that has lasted the longest. And he's actually just saying 5 guys together at Swinging Bridge.
Just halfway.
Even before that, there were like 15 guys through Dusty Corners, pretty much like all en masse,
Dusty Corners is stressful.
which was wild.
Yeah.
So like the lead group last year, I have like a couple memories before everything went dark and I faded away. But one of them was like mile 11, mile 12, kind of coming up on Lion Ridge there, running at the back of the front pack in 20th place, and right in front of me were Dan Jones and Hayden, and they were like, once we're kind of through this single track section, like let's open it up, let's start pushing toward the front. And retrospectively looking at all the splits, like what they did and how they worked through that field was so
They
impressive.
passed Jim at last chance.
Yeah.
It was wild. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think last year's lead pack, there were a lot of people trying to make that statement. I think Jim not being in this race, if we were saying it was his race to lose, might have just made this race more dynamic and more interesting. Because we know how hungry Dan Jones is. We know how hungry Rod is. To come that close to winning Western States, like he's going to want to go for it again. Yeah. Caleb's name probably hasn't even been mentioned enough, and we could just keep just saying his name. But he's part of the group that I have of like silent crushers who are not outspoken or transparent, or at least like putting all of the work they're doing out there, yet should be very much feared.
Who else is on the list?
I put Jeff McGavro and Caleb maybe in the top cohort of that list.
Yeah, like we've seen a lot of Jeff's Strava training, but I think the work outside of the Strava training is what we don't see from Jeff. And I think for Caleb, he's quite dim right now. We only see his like friend runs,
I have a
sadly.
question. Are there more people this year or last year who think they can win the race?
This year. Thanks, Mike.
So because of that front pack has to be bigger than last year. Because it's like, if you think you can win the race, they're like, well, I'm going to be in it.
Well, is
to
it
win
deeper this year though? I would argue
not sure.
it's starting to not be as deep as last year.
I think it's as deep as last
As
year.
deep?
Yeah.
Fine.
But if it's as deep, but there's more people that think they can win, then it should be just more condensed. So like, you think we'll see even more of a drop off past like 15 hours?
What do you mean?
Like you'll see a whole bunch of people from winter to 15 hours, and then just like.
And then we're here for the
17,
women's
30.
race, yeah.
We have a lot of runners in this race who ran among the best Western States ever last year.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Like
that's
Chris
top
Myers
10, yeah,
is
15,
back,
13,
right?
I think.
Like,
Yes.
He was like low 15s.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that faster than what Adam won in.
by a good margin.
Yeah.
And I think Adam's very capable of running that, especially in a field that's going to push him. But to me, like if we're just going off like numbers and experience, this is a deeper field than last year for this race.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Jim's race to lose this year if he was on the start line.
I don't think so either.
I don't know. His Chianti performance,
It was
like, I'm
insane.
starting
It was
to
amazing.
believe the
I thought it
UTMB
was.
index.
I
of
thought
that
It was
performance.
insane.
Yeah.
But I think one of the contributions that Rod has made to like the last 2 to 3 years of the race is he empowered a lot of people behind him to think that they could be right there.
You can do it.
Yeah. What is it? There it is. Rod is, the inspiration.
I think he empowered. I think like Rod empowered a bunch of people, and I think that like we're going to see the fruits of it this year.
He volunteered to tribute.
Yeah. Yeah, and like on paper, Rod's the fastest returner in this race, whether or not he's a returning champion.
Yeah.
And took Jim to the brink, or not quite to the brink, but
Just about like farther than anyone has pushed Jim at this race by like a huge
Jared,
margin.
maybe a little bit.
Jared, I
was
don't
just
think
like-
was in contact though.
Yeah,
He was
Jared
in
was just
contact,
like
he was
there.
chasing.
he was
Yeah.
in shouting distance the whole day, but like Jim could never see him.
Yeah.
Do you think Rod will implement similar tactics this year?
Oh, that's what I think in a way, because we were talking about like who is the best through the high country, and then that got me thinking of like, I feel like Rod and Adam are like two examples of like your fast, steady runners, where like it doesn't seem like Adam reacts to surges. Like he can, like at Gorge, he was like okay with letting Trayson go and be like, oh, I'm just gonna reel him back in. And Rod seemed kind of like that runner too, where he's just like the big like diesel engine, where he's just gonna keep going. And so it's like, can that win this race?
I don't think so.
Do
Interesting.
you need to be that kind of punchy runner?
I think so. And I think you need to be risky at the same time.
So you
Like,
don't think Adam Peterman or Rod Farfard could win this race?
I don't think they will.
Wow. Is Adam Peterman the most disrespected Western States champion?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
No, we could disrespect some more Western States champs if that's the route you want.
Throw disrespect on the name right now.
I think Adam is one of the
disrespected.
like 6 people I could see on the podium this year. I don't know if I see him replicating his win.
Yeah, because
I think we've also seen some flaws in Adam in recent years in some of his races. I do think we're getting the best version of Adam that we've seen on the start line since his injuries at the World Championships.
Yeah, I heard that he's actually gotten fit since Gorge.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
he
gosh.
just had his Mount Sentinel PR, which I'm assuming he does it as part of his training very often, and he ran that very fast,
So,
like just
I
last
mean,
week.
personally, Adam Peterman is like in my pick for.
is he in the best shape of his life?
My understanding is that he's feeling like himself and has gotten much fitter since Gorge,
Yeah.
where he brought the course record well under 8 hours. Like
Yeah.
he had a
was
dominant
challenged.
performance.
He was quite challenged at Gorge, though.
Not for the last 20 miles.
I know, not for the last. I mean, not the last.
I think
Yeah, he was
I think
challenged for a bit.
Adam needs to be fitter than he was in 2022. if he
Definitely,
wants
and
to
I
win this
think
race.
he
I
is.
agree. But so he's going to have to run like what, an hour and a half faster? If we're
Yeah.
calling it like a 14-hour.
Yeah, I guess
winning
so,
time?
like
That was
I guess
his
so.
first 100.
I know.
Is that also?
And he just ran it to win. That is one thing I
Yeah.
do like about Adam is Adam's good at winning. Which
That's true. He's a
that
good
is-
racer.
That's another thing is like who. There's a lot of fast people in the race, but like who's winning? Who's
El
good at
Hussein
winning?
is really good at winning.
El Hussein.
That was crazy.
He is very good at. He might be the best person. At
Yeah,
winning.
just like backtracking. Someone was like, "Why would you let
This guy's
someone?"
not at running.
He's not
Western
running
States.
Western States.
Yeah.
This was the 23K. But my brother was like, "Why would you let him sit and kick like that?"
It's like,
I'm like,
you
you know,
can't
I
stop
think
him.
Philemon and Patrick have raced him enough that they brought it out as fast as they possibly could, and he's that good that he can still sit and kick.
Yeah,
Like that guy knows how to win. But
Yeah.
Adam is really good at winning.
Adam's good
Yeah.
at winning. Which then it just brings up questions like, can someone run so fast that Adam's wheels fall off? It's like I have no idea what that
I think
time is.
if we're talking about can someone run so fast to push the pace to, like, one, you have to hook them to get them to go with you, right? Like Jim did with Hayden in 2022.
Yeah,
Like, I think David Roche and Killian at the very front of the race, maybe with like a Hans Troyer mixed in there of like,
yeah.
like running on like really, I think, strong self-belief that could pull out the field in a way that might be detrimental to someone like Adam or Rod.
Could you see David though hitting a point in a, let's call it the first 50K, where he's like, this pace is too hot for where my spreadsheet wants to land me, and I need to reel it
For
back?
David,
That's
I don't
interesting.
think so.
The spreadsheet, I mean, if he's saying spreadsheet is like the main directive force, like
Yeah.
you'd think he would.
Yeah,
But I kind of have a feeling if his spreadsheet's like 14:06, that's a pretty fast pace.
totally. I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and like I don't know if anyone's really going to be like trying to hit 13:30 splits, but if someone were to do it, I don't know if I see David letting them go.
I could see Dan Jones being like one of those people up front.
See, Dan's one of those guys who I feel like he seems like peppy enough
Yeah.
to react to various.
We haven't mentioned like
surges on
Seth at
course.
all.
I know
Also.
Seth. Yeah, I mean, we haven't. I mean, we threw all
I
these
think he's
names
the most
out.
disrespected Black Canyon champion of all time.
Really?
Seth.
I don't know if
Oh, that's
people
a
are giving
good
him enough credit.
conversation,
I
but-
think he's so good.
Yes.
Seth is incredibly good.
I think he's the second best.
Why do you
athlete
think
in the
he's
field.
disrespected?
The year of the boy.
Yeah, it is
I
the
know.
year of the boy.
Well, it's 'cause Jeff
Is
and
that
I,
the
Jeff and I
Chinese
have an
New Year
ongoing
year?
feud about
I
this.
think so.
Yeah, it was like
Why do you-
horse
You've
dragon
discounted it a little bit,
boy.
right?
Oh, I don't necessarily think that I don't think that Black Canyon performance, in my opinion, is on par with Caleb's performance.
Okay.
And mostly it's because it's
I
a
agree.
paced,
I agree with
crude
that.
race, like in a very different way.
Correct.
Like that was a recipe that worked well for Seth. Seth is going to have a team of all-stars here with him. The only question with Seth is it's his 100-mile debut.
Yeah.
And he's
40
gone
miles.
on record saying that in longer races, he ends up getting complacent and not engaging. And if that happens, that's not something you can let happen.
That's a great point,
here.
yeah.
So I think Seth is incredibly talented. He's definitely up there with the fastest in the field. And he could be like, again, in that mix up front early.
Is he somebody that would be not more satisfied with a top 10, but like going for that like safer position
Hell no.
in the top 10?
No.
Okay, you think he's going
He's
for the
talked
win?
about on some of the Boulder Boys pods where he's like, basically, if I don't have a chance to win, I'm like totally disengaged from the race.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you think it's more important to emphasize that he's going up about 40 miles in distance or about 4 hours time on feet? 'Cause-
Time.
Okay, so it's a 4-hour jump from CCC and like the
Yeah.
maxi race and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
4 hours is kind of a long time.
Yeah,
Though.
yeah.
Like,
Is the Western States debut record?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
Oh,
Is
is
the
the
West?
West-
Is there anyone else who threatens it other than Seth?
Okay, so yeah, is the
Who's your
Western
Western debuts?
States
I think
debut
Jeff
McConaughey.
McGavro.
record
McConaughey.
threatened, and that was Caleb
Well,
Olson from last year, right?
State's debut and 100-mile debut?
And
Okay.
But both.
Yeah, I think State's debut, I think Jeff could definitely threaten that. Like I would not be surprised if, again, we're a couple days out on temperatures and how everything's gonna pan out. I think Jeff can handily run sub 14.
who has the States debut time?
Caleb.
Oh, I thought that was
Last year.
States and Western. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeff, are you able
Two
to,
different questions.
can you give
He's
us
got both.
detail on like the extent to which Jeff has prepared for this race?
I'm not gonna speak too much. I'm staying with Jeff. I'm pacing him. I have thought that I've come into this race leaving no stone unturned, and like chatting with Jeff, I'm like, God, I didn't even know those stones existed.
You didn't realize that the stones you were turning over were laying on another bed of boulders?
Yeah, and like it's like before 2023 UTMB, he gave me his kind of aid station crew plan to work off of. And like that was my first exposure to Jeff McGavro's spreadsheets, which are incredibly detailed. Seeing him at Javelina last year and crewing him and pacing him last fall down there, it's like, this guy is so dialed on his intakes and just knowing his like where he is and his limits that like I've completely changed how I approach kind of nutrition, hydration in my training and in preparation for a race, where like he showed me that if you're not the smartest runner in the race, like you better be the fastest. And I'm not always the fastest runner showing up. So if I'm not doing everything in my power to be the smartest runner on that starting line, then that's a disservice. He, I think, might be the smartest runner on the starting line.
You bring up a good point. I think one of the best ways to get experience at Western States is crewing and pacing an elite runner that is preparing to the spot that like somebody like Jeff is, to see what that spreadsheet looks like, to see how they're pacing it, their nutrition, how it's planned, what the cooling looks like. Like if you've never run Western States before or been a part of somebody's crew, it's pretty daunting to come into this weekend having no experience with this environment, because it is a lot, it's stressful, and you need to be so dialed these days.
Yeah, Jeff paced Adam to the win in 2022. He paced me the last 2 years. Adam, he paced the finish. Me, he paced Forest Hill to the river. He's very, very good at pacing, but he's a really like tactful racer. And yeah, I love that he watched the entire live stream from last year on normal speed
Oh my God.
to just take notes.
On a treadmill in one run.
In 117 degrees.
In the snow, both ways.
So something that I did observe with Jeff too was a few things. I think he had like, outside of Dan Green's Cocodona, probably like the chunkiest training week of anybody. I think he had like a 168-mile week in about 6 days, which equates to, I did the math earlier, like 26.666 miles or something. And
Far over it.
with 5,000 feet of vert a day per run.
And
So-
like not junk mile type
junk
paces
miles.
either. Like he was running very
Huge.
quick during it.
Yeah, and he also commented on like his hundreds of hours of like mental and physical prep that went into this race. So I think, like you mentioned, he's doing all the little things.
This is the total shameless plug. He said he put 320 miles on a pair of Ultra Pros in 2 weeks. All long runs, all like big miles. And he was like, they're still great. I was like, Jeff, I'm sorry, that's like over a month of my training. Like that is nuts.
That's a sponsored runner
yeah.
budget right there.
Jeff aside, like I think Seth is very worth like talking about and having in the conversation. I think you're spot on in terms of like talent.
Complacency
and
is a
speed.
fair critique.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's on the record saying that.
Another person who definitely has a shot at the state's rookie record is Vincent Bouillard.
Oh yeah.
I feel
Let's
like
talk about him.
Is he
for
the
a little
most
bit.
disrespected UTMB champion of all time?
Yeah, maybe.
dude, it's like
Of at least the last year.
I mean I know he's going to be wearing the perfect shoe for this course because he's probably designed it himself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Vincent Jim Beta connection should not be like
Undervalued.
undervalued. And I'd go ahead and say the same with the Dan Jones Hayden connection.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think on the Freetrail podcast with Dan, he was quoted saying like that Hayden was like watching the training that Dan was doing and was like, you're ready. And that's a pretty huge stamp of approval. Not that Dan needs that. The last 2 years have spoken for themselves, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
like Dan has improved his placement every year and improved his time by an hour plus.
If he did an hour
Yeah.
plus again.
Yeah, so if he did an hour plus again,
Vincent is a little bit of a wild card for me, just on the terrain difference. And to tell you the truth, I know of like 3 results of his. And like, I don't have a depth of knowledge on Vincent. Like I know Gorge, I know UTMB, someone earlier.
Trail half marathon in
Kodiak,
San Luis
100
Obispo in
miles.
2020.
Exactly.
That's his racing resume.
But he's obviously incredibly talented. Like, could he win on Saturday? I don't know
how
why.
do you think his
why
Chianti
not.
was as a predictor of Western states this year?
God,
Yeah, you take.
I truly think Jim's Chianti was so out of like
This
the
order.
realm of
Is it just
ordinary.
ruining our ability to then assess
'Cause
anybody
you
else's
were there.
performance?
You were
Yeah, Jim, that like those conditions were so bad. That race is not like an easy race. And
He made it look
the
so
thrashing
easy.
that Jim did on Vincent and Killian was ridiculous.
Jim-
It immediately made me be like, oh my God, Jim is fitter than he's ever been right now.
Did he run his Western states a few months too early?
You can ask him that tomorrow.
Okay.
All I know is watching the trail there between Vincent and Killian, second and third battle. It was so interesting to see 2 different strengths at play. Killian might have been hurt.
Downhill
too,
and
but-
uphill.
But to see Vincent put the gap on the downhills and then to see Killian close that as quickly as he did on the uphills was insane.
Yeah, that climb was not like the climb to the finish that Killian closed on too was like pretty steep grade, perfect grass slip and slide. Like if you actually decided to go try to slide down that on your butt, you maybe 25 or 30 miles an hour. Like you would have been ripping. So the thought of then trying to like climb up that incredibly quickly to close on Vincent, I think Vincent had a great Chianti performance. And I think it is overshadowed by Jim's out of this world performance.
Yeah.
But you've gone on record too saying the Chianti course is a great course to train or qualify for Western states on.
Yeah, I think it might be the best indicator. Like, again, Gorge is really good, but Gorge, you're just hitting kind of those, the last couple canyons. Like, Gorge is obviously on this course. Chianti's, like, it's similarly runnable. It has the technicality, and the climbs are, like, steep and punchy, where you might want to hike them, but you can definitely run them.
Yeah.
I know Killian was compromised. He had just had a kid and was hurt. I had also heard that Vincent had been coming into that race not banged up, but dealing with something in all of January. Like he had like half a training block coming into Chianti.
Yeah.
So
Vincent would be, like, a pretty good surprise winner.
Yeah. That
just
would,
like at UTMB.
Yeah.
yeah. Ooh, that's a good question. Who, like, realistically could win this race, that would be the biggest surprise for you. Like, I think Vincent's like, that would be a big surprise win.
I would be super surprised if Hans Troyer won this race.
But like not impossible.
As like a date, yeah, I don't think it's
not
impossible.
but like I think that would be one of like the biggest upsets of the decade.
Yeah,
But not impossible though.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one.
Hannes versus Hans, who you got? I
Oh.
do think
Yeah.
that's a great one. Hannes, he jogged down the mountain on Sunday. Sounds like he's really fit. He sounds like he doesn't want his heat training to go to waste. So he's hoping for some temps.
Yeah, he's done a nice combo of running and biking training, it seems. Like, he doesn't go overboard if he's sharing everything, which I assume he's sharing most. He does like maybe like 10 to 12 hours of running a week, but then another like 6 hours on the bike. And I know he's another one of those guys that I've just seen pictures and videos just dripping sweat. So he seems like he's been really diligent. And probably a little bit afraid of the heat here.
Yeah.
And Hannes has wins at like so many notable races
Hasn't
across
he won
the world.
Lavaredo, like,
Lavaredo like 3
3
times. Eiger, he's been top 10 at UTMB
I think he
3
was
times.
second at
Fourth-
UTCT.
Yep, and he was like I think 4th at UTMB just this past year. So this is I think probably the most runnable race outside of Canyons that he will have done. But I think anybody that wins Lavaredo that many times like will succeed on this course.
So if Hans might be faster foot speed than Hannes, Hannes might be maybe more durable. What does this race favor? And like, do we actually see Canyons as that different? Or sorry, Western States is that different from Canyons? Where at Canyons we saw Hannes
I think
beat
Does Hannes beat Hans?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hannes was second.
Okay.
So
no,
like,
Hans beat Hannes.
wait, Hannes was second? Hans was second?
Hans Troyer was second place at Canyons. And then Hannes was third. They were like 3 to 5 minutes separated. It was a close
Help
race.
us.
I didn't even know that when I asked that question.
I think Canyons and Western States, when we're thinking about those two guys in particular, end up being very different races.
Yeah.
I think for 2 reasons. Altitude. It's funny, but I do think that altitude in the first
You
50K,
got halved by it the first time I ran States.
it's
the first
sneaky.
50K.
It is very
I
sneaky.
got such a bad tummy ache.
Yeah, and you get kind of nauseous up there, especially if you're pushing carbs early. It's hard to keep the stomach completely happy. So if the pace is hot, if the temperature is warming up, if somebody's not familiar with altitude, which like both Hans and Hannes really aren't from altitude, I think you just need to be able to survive that first 50K, which I think Hannes can do a bit better probably
Yeah.
than Hans later on.
For sure.
I have a question. What are the chances? Because again, I am the hype king. Like every year, I want to see like records broken, cumulative top 10 times, being the fastest ever. What do you guys think the chances are we actually see a regression this year?
In time?
In time, like for example, like I was just listening to Ryan Montgomery talk with Dylan. Ryan is targeting sub 15 hours, and also has talked about like I think I could be fit enough to podium this year. So like, what are the chances that we see a regression in the men's field?
I don't think we'll see a regression in like the top 10 times. I think we'll see another year of the fastest top 10 times. Like I actually do think last year, let's call it 15, 13 maybe was the top 10. I think it's going to be closer to probably 15 hours this year. But maybe we won't see an improvement on the course record, or will we? I think we could. I know there's a lot of people that think Jim's course record is untouchable this year. I think it's touchable.
We're looking at 94 as a high.
Yeah, that's
Right now,
like
that's
exactly what last
forecasted.
year was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
last year was still fast.
Last year was
Yeah.
fast.
But we're getting some good lows up here.
Yeah.
Like,
In the high
the
country.
rocks and stuff aren't going to get that hot, which is important. That matters. Like Jim's talked about that.
I think what I heard was Duncan Canyon will be right at 60 degrees at 3.5 hours when they come through there, right? So if you're thinking 60 degrees is the threshold for starting to cool or not,
Yeah.
like, are you taking an ice bandana at Duncan Canyon, which is early?
Is that
I never did that.
24 miles?
25, yeah.
25 miles.
I never did that.
I took ice at like Lions Ridge, or what is it, Lions?
Red Star Ridge?
I've taken ice at like mile 12 before.
Yeah, okay.
And I think,
Lion,
I mean, it could feel hot.
And there's some years where that's like absolutely valid, where it's like
Yeah.
in the 70s by
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
Like I remember in 2022, we came into Duncan together. You took ice, I didn't,
Why did you not?
because it wasn't in my spreadsheet.
Spreadsheets, baby.
Yeah, it wasn't in my spreadsheet, and then I melted from there to Robinson. Like as soon as I left, I was just like, Oh man, I should have grabbed some ice. It's like
You got
5 degrees hotter than I thought.
Yeah, you got a creek to dip a hat in 2 miles after Duncan, and then
Yeah.
you've got an actual creek that you can lie down in, like river crossing. I think one of the forks of the American River, and then it is kind of hot and desolate for the next 4 miles.
Yeah,
or so
it's
to
like decent climb.
Robinson. Yeah,
That the sun starts to hit you really for the
I would
first time.
still lean not toward taking ice, just because
Yeah.
you have those water crossings. But again, 60 degrees at that point, it's going to be pretty cool through the first 50K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see. I think it's going to be pretty. I think it's going to be pretty similar in terms of the top 10, and we might see top 10 at like 10th men at 15:09. We might see them at 15:20, but I think it's going to be relatively comparable. I would love to see the top 5 closer. Like a
Yeah.
I think we'll see that for sure. Like, I think the whole top 10, it'll be similar to like what we just saw at Broken Arrow.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like every race there, that was separated by seconds and minutes, and I think we're going to see like a really small margin here.
All right, I got a take. I think if we see a course record, there will be 2 men that go under Jim's, because I think they'll have to race and push each other
That's cool.
to get to that. I don't think anyone's going to solo
Yeah.
a Jim course record. So I think if someone goes under it, like they're just 2 will be under it, and someone will be like, I went under the old course record, but it's not a course record because I lost.
Yeah.
yeah. I
always
don't
a
think
sad spot
that
to
is
be
going to
in.
happen.
You do not?
I would foresee.
I agree.
But yeah, I didn't say
You agree with
it was gonna
Brett?
happen
Yeah,
or
I think
not.
this is the most knowledgeable and equipped field we've ever seen at Western, and that's going to be every year for the next few years. And the best shoes, the best fueling strategies.
This
I
is
think
the
if we see the
crazy.
course record, one person will go under it, and like there might be a race till late, but
Yeah.
they'll break at ALT or they'll break. They don't think 20 rocks. You're like too close to break and fade, but ALT that
'Cause
climb
that's
like
where Rod and Jim separated was before ALT.
yeah. So I think
They're
you're
right around
gonna
there.
we could see a gap. Like if people come through Green Gate under course record pace, they might keep pushing for another 10 miles, and then I think someone's gonna rise above. I think if the course record goes under, I think one.
I think we're going to see like 3 or 4 people on Green Gate at the same time.
I hope so. But we always see that, it's just like around hour 15, 16,
that's true.
17.
I did not know this information last year. I would be curious to know how many people in last year's men's field had written down optimistic splits for sub 14:20, because I know at least 6 people who will remain anonymous that have written splits down for sub 14.
Tell us.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything,
I've got-
but I do know that at least 6 runners have
Yeah.
in this field.
I've got a follow-up.
I think last year those splits were like 14:40.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's a big difference. Like I think looking at Tom Evans' winning time, people were like, I can run under that.
Yeah.
And I felt that. Like I think people were eyeing that.
Okay, so with the advancement of the massive spreadsheet and like all the robotic things that come into this race, who in this field do you think is going to give themselves the emotional room to run better than their spreadsheet? Like who's, because it's like turn your brain off, just like do what the spreadsheet.
Adam
Who's gonna
Peterman
give
is
himself the
like-
room to like rage and just be like, I want it more than the person next to me.
Adam Peterman.
You think Adam?
I think so. In the sense that just hearing him scream, "Let's go, Adam," to himself at World Championships
I love
when he
that.
was 5 miles ahead of me on a loop and we were crossing the same part, I was like, "Wow, that's wild."
You're like, that's
He
some
was just
positive self-talk.
raging with the self-talk in a way like I do think he can kind of go like activated, super robot mode.
Yeah.
I think Adam like could definitely be that guy.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to the like, I think there's a lot of people who have the spreadsheets and the fitness to run 14:20, but then like, who's going to be the person that decides that they're going to deviate from their plan a little bit
Yeah.
because now it's time to win?
I'm going to go with Caleb on this one. And I think his race last year was evidence of that, and so was his Trans-Gran Canaria this year. Like, he came into Western States last year with like 15 hours, I think, or something like
Yeah.
that. And what did he run? 14?
He started moving up way
14:40.
earlier.
Yeah, 15 something. I think 15:30 were his splits last year. I don't even
Yeah.
know. But then Gran Canaria this year, like we weren't even, like that was unimaginable when at the end of the day, 12 were, I don't
Insane.
even know his time. I should
Yeah.
look at these things.
Yeah, that doesn't.
So I think, those people, like Adam, Caleb,
Yeah.
Killian probably.
Can we play a game that ultimately ends in us all saying who we think is going to win the race?
Yes.
Ooh. Oh, I don't like this
I know a little
game.
bit about it.
So, okay, well then Finn, I'll let you start. So basically you have like 60 seconds to give a play-by-play of the front of the race. When the move to win the race is going to get made, and then who ends up winning the race.
I'll start because it's easy.
Like this is like a full like,
I get the easy one.
Finn's just playing it out right now. This is what's going to happen in Finn's head.
I get the easy one, and maybe the most compelling. David Roche gets to the top of the escarpment and wires to wires it for the win.
What does he run?
He runs, well, he said in his latest vlog that he's going to get to the track sometime between 7 p.m. and 7:20 p.m. So let's just say for added stoke that he gets there at 7:08 and gets a course record.
So that's 14 hours to 14:20 race clock.
Yeah.
And he runs 14:08.
14:08, yeah.
What's the course record? 14:09?
Is there anyone pushing him, or is he doing this solely?
I think he's
as
time
an
trialing.
entirely solo
Yeah,
effort?
I think it's an entirely solo effort.
No one's with him at Duncan Canyon. No one's with
No.
him at Robinson Flat,
No.
Last Chance,
He's
El
untouched.
Dorado.
Because he goes up to the escarpment in like 26 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
Is that just because he called you out last year?
Did he call me out?
He did, I think, yeah.
I think it was for Javelina.
Yeah, he called you.
We were like, I don't think he does it. And he was
For
just
what it's
like,
worth,
"F you,
I bet
Jeff."
all of us have been called out by David at some
yeah.
point, and that's
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
fine. That's all part of this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's our job is to make predictions.
And our predictions are often very
Hey,
wrong for what it's
David's
worth.
David's a
Yeah.
top dog.
Yeah.
David's a top dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's easy for people onlooking. Like, I think the polarization that David has created is fascinating to me, because if you are an elite man on that starting line, you are taking him completely seriously.
Totally.
Oh,
And like
As
that
you
is
should, yeah.
like if the competitors are like, yeah, he's showing up to like win, you know, he certainly has the accumulative fitness and training as well as the methodology to win.
And again, I even forgot about this, but one of the things about David that I think is interesting, he gets a ton of flack for the training that he did in the build-up to Western this year, but before he ever got into this golden ticket game, he was in like the whole mountain running series, short distance.
Yeah, like 50. He was on the representative worlds for
Yeah.
50K.
Did the Jupiter Peak steeplechase,
That's
then
right.
got the Grandeur CR the next day, like here in Salt Lake. He has, a decade of background on the terrain.
I've raced David, I think maybe 3 times, and he's beaten me every time. And like, they've all been on, like, anyone who's saying like the trails are too technical, that's kind of horse,
Yeah.
crap. Like, he knows how to run.
Yeah,
He's a
and he
really good runner.
He did just set a course record at Quad Rock too, pretty substantially.
Yeah.
Which, like, those trails, there's a lot of cruisy sections, but like definitely some rocky sections as well. And his ankles held up. So
I don't think he's an underdog. I don't
Yeah.
believe that narrative.
I don't think so
No,
either.
I
think
don't
he's
buy
an
that
underdog.
narrative either.
No.
I don't think he's an underdog.
I know you went, and we'll go in order, but I did want to say, I think I just saw on Strava on Saturday, Jeff McGavro just like casually got the 7th fastest time up the escarpment on his like exploratory run or something. I was like, wait, what? That's super fast.
Stop.
Maybe it was just a segment of the escarpment. And I was like,
Heat
what
suit.
is this? Yeah.
Wearing toe shoes.
Yeah, I do think that's the easy one. I think it's
Okay.
like the narrative of if David wins, he is going to set the pace early and try to win wire to wire.
I think
is
that's
one
the only way he
I
wins.
totally believe
Yeah.
that.
I think that's the only way.
And I like what you said about the field is taking him seriously, very much so.
Yeah.
He's a contender, absolutely, and very much has a chance to win this race.
But then would they take him so seriously as to not let him go?
That's a great, yeah, exactly. I think that my scenario is very highly unlikely.
I
Why?
like it though. I'm glad that you said it.
Well,
No
I said it-
changing, no
I,
takebacks.
I said it because it's
Touch blue, make it true.
Yeah, okay. That's right. That's right. No, when I really think about it, the stakes are too high, and people know that the race actually starts in Olympic Valley. So I should edit what I said. I really don't
no
foresee
edits
that
allowed.
happening.
I do think it's so interesting. 2022, I had the opportunity to interview Tim Tollefson for like a Jolbo blog post. It was like Western States first timer talking to Western States, like, royalty, Tim Tollefson. And Tim was like, you got to remember, like, the race kind of starts at Forest Hill, and like the last 20 miles is so runnable. And like Tim and Rod are training in the same group. They're like, they're spending a lot of time together. And for last year, for Rod, I think he made the statement that the race starts in Olympic Valley.
Yes.
And he did that. And it's like just the way that the sport has evolved so quickly.
Yeah. Like every second counts, to quote the bear.
The
Leah.
bear.
Well, I'm next. I really wanted to hear all of yours first. So we are saying how we think the race is going to play out.
You have to choose a champion.
Yeah, choose a champion and describe their path
Would you
to
like to
victory.
defer your spot?
No, I'm not going to defer my spot.
Michael's ready.
Could comes in next year.
Yeah, give me some confidence.
Come in.
All right, Mike's
Well,
coming
because
in.
let's think.
I'll share.
Yeah, share my mic. Who do you think's gonna?
Oh, that's a Seth Cooling. That's a cool name.
Okay, so you go ahead. You say your take first, then I'll follow you up.
I think.
No, closer.
Can we hear me all right? I think that's probably.
Probably you talk loud.
I think we're going to see a pretty good lead pack, probably through the start of the canyons. Probably still at Swing Bridge. Pretty good lead pack that's taken out hot, David Roche included. But I don't think David Roche is going off the front. I think probably somewhere around that Devil's Thumb climb, the mountain runners are going to want to break it open because they know that like the Davids, the Seths,
I think David might be one of the fastest mountain runners in this field.
well, but he's also one of the fastest
Flat runners?
flat runners in the field. Like
Yeah,
I think
David has like a policy of not ever hiking. He can run everything, and he
so. I
does
think
run
people
everything.
are going to want to gap him
Yeah,
before it gets to Forest Hill.
yeah.
Is kind of what I'm saying. Not that he's not one of the strongest climbers, but the people who the climbing is their strength and want to win the race, I think are going to want to break the race open before it gets to Michigan Bluff and Forest Hill. So, I mean, I could totally see Killian starting to do his thing and experiment with the field a little bit on those climbs in the canyons. And, yeah, maybe Vincent's going with him.
Does Killian get
Who's
in
your winner?
Eldorado?
Maybe we see a little Chianti throwback with a Killian Vincent one too.
If Vincent is running under Jim's guidance, he'll get in Eldorado Creek, right? Like that's like a Jimism.
Yes.
Will
Yes.
we see runners skipping Eldorado Creek like right up front? Will Killian get in the creek?
Will Killian get in the creek? We gotta put that on the prop.
That's a
Bet
good
sheet.
question.
Killian's
Yeah.
Creek.
Yeah.
Okay, anywho, I'll
who's
finish
gonna
your
win?
train of thought. Yeah, I'll take the mic now.
Oh, okay. This is a combined thought. Okay.
I was just here to give her the confidence.
Okay. Killian will win. And I don't think he's going to win by much, though. And then he's
He
going.
usually just plays to win.
Yes, he does. And I think he will want to like have a comfortable win, but he'll be very much threatened by Caleb Olson in second, and then Dan Jones is going to be chasing Caleb down, and Dan probably has a little bit more leg speed than Caleb, so I would really not want to see that go to a track race at the end.
So you're going Dan
That's
Jones
good.
and
I would
Going
watch that
Killian,
race.
Caleb, Dan Jones.
Yeah.
okay.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
That's
I would,
it?
I would watch that race.
Yeah.
I would
will
watch your
watch
race
that
too.
race, yeah.
Then.
Yeah, and those are your free trail picks?
I think so. Yeah, we'll just go there.
Because I don't actually think David's winning. So should I like?
No, I think that's not what this is. We're giving a story. And we're telling
tell a
the story.
story.
You're gonna
I
get.
stand by the story. The
Yeah,
story is
okay.
compelling and rich.
I think it's super compelling.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeff, what
Jeff,
about
what's your
you?
story?
I think we are going to have a group inspired by Rod Farvard's run last year.
Something just crashed.
Are we crashing?
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi just went on.
Oh no.
What do we do?
Are we paused right now?
We're paused.
Can I pee?
Yes, go
Yes,
pee.
this is a
Go.
moment.
You got to keep that mic on.
Oh yeah, I did drop my magnet somewhere.
I have Wi-Fi on my phone.
All right, we're back.
Okay.
Oh, good thing you took your mic off then. I was like, you don't need to take your mic off. I gotta find that
got-
magnet.
Are we live?
With Killian, Dan.
Okay, sorry guys, we just had a little internet rain snafu probably outside.
Our chat disappeared though. It has been incredibly stormy
Yes.
entire time, which has been fascinating. Okay, I guess
back up?
Yeah,
maybe
we're
we
good.
were never gone. That could be a problem.
We thought we.
They got an ad break.
Down for a second.
It is.
No, okay, we did.
It is storming here in Olympic Valley, and that's the story that we're holding to.
It has been pouring rain this whole time.
Oh, that's a great question. Who in the men's elite field would have the most OnlyFans subscribers?
Oh. I think based on the Strava comments these days, David Roche.
Oh,
Yeah,
David gets so much engagement on Strava
he does.
and on YouTube.
yeah.
I think he's got.
See this question?
Oh,
What about Killian though?
oh, that's a good point too.
Well, then we're just purely correlating
question?
whoever has the most like
I think everybody
Instagram.
heard our conversation about you need to pee, is what I'm gathering.
Oh, nice. It was good.
Your stream is working.
Yeah, it was a success.
That was
That
a
was
live stream.
it was a live stream.
Did somebody say that?
I'm sorry for not bringing the microphone with me.
Yeah. Need some ASMR. PP.
Kick it off.
Yes, yeah, you're back. You're back.
I'm going with a group inspired by Rod Farvard's performance last year. This group is durable and resilient. I think we're going to see Rod Farvard, Caleb Olson, and the boys from Missoula all running together, pushing it, and actually just like running the canyons in a way where, unfortunately, some of the faster, maybe less mountainy, durable runners are falling back a little bit. I think we end up with a chase pack of Vincent and Killian, but when it comes to the river, we're going to see Rod, Caleb, Adam, and Jeff
I like that.
within a 5 or 6 minute window together. And I'm just going to write the fantasy I want. Adam and Jeff are going to work together all the way to the finish. And we're going to see a repeat of Broken Arrow last year where Jeff McGavro outkicks Adam Peterman.
Do you
For-
get dropped?
Oh, I'm fully dropped. Just so we know, I'm
where do you
pacing.
get let go?
I probably get dropped on the climb ALT
Nice.
to Painted Rocks. That's just a pretty hard climb.
Okay, so pretty early.
Yeah, like
Pretty
10
early
miles
on.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah,
I
Jeff
would-
knows. He was
You're
like
not beating my
questioning
record of getting
fitness.
dropped 3 miles in.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude,
But
I would watch
I don't
that
know.
race.
I think that like there's been a lot of SLC Boulder instigation from the Single Track podcast. Missoula, I think, has two of the, like, in my mind, sure pick top 10 finishers in this race.
I agree.
I call it miserabula.
Missoula is so nice.
Sounds like
just kidding,
some
I'm
sort of
being so
like
hard.
burnt Italian. dish.
Yeah, I certainly would love to see Adam and Jeff have a great day, but I do think that Adam, Jeff, Caleb, Rod, I think they have this je ne sais quoi, this like
Yeah.
something about them that is going to, like, the energy is aligned for them. Their
They work really well
chakras-
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I would watch that race.
Is Killian not on your podium? Or is this just
My-
a
my
story, or
lead
are these your
This is
picks?
just like your story.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
lead pack was your chase pack.
Yeah, I am, for what it's worth, like, I have not picked my fantasy yet. I'll probably wait to do that until Friday, because I think there's a lot that can still happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, people can get sick this week too.
Yeah, but like right now, Killian is like he's a one of 6 names that could be on my podium.
Yeah. Dude, that'd be such a fun race to watch.
Yeah, I got chills.
That would
Cool.
be good.
That's
Good
great.
story.
Yeah, and I didn't even bring up the whole, like, they're all running
Holding
with
hands.
a horse.
Oh, that.
I thought you were
guiding
going to say a
horse.
hand-holded finish.
yeah,
I'll punch you in the mouth.
No,
That's time? Or does that not matter?
14 minutes and 69 seconds. 14 hours and 69 seconds.
That's 14:01:09.
Yeah.
That's 15:09. No.
I love that.
They're just going to miss it.
14 hours and 69 minutes.
69 seconds. Units, man, conversions, kilometers, miles, minutes, seconds.
What's your story, Brett?
Okay, so I think that if you want to win this race, you have to be with Killian at Forest Hill, because I don't think Killian will be anywhere but the front pack. And I think it's going to come down to who can survive Killian messing around with people in the canyons with good enough legs after Forest Hill. So this was my list of people that I think will make it to Forest Hill with Killian, which is going to make for an absolutely chaotic Forest Hill. Leah, going back to what you said about like the details of Western States, like a detail, like it's amazing that a detail in a 100-mile race might be where on Forest Hill exactly are you going to be?
Oh,
You don't want to be running like half like looking. You want to be like, I know exactly how far down the road.
I mean, Rod set that precedent last year.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah.
are we like not sharing?
I didn't get to see the.
Are we
full
not
photo.
sharing because we want to keep it a secret for someone?
No. What do you do?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Rod was the last aid station at Forest Hill, so he got to see every single person as he ran through, but it was just one guy.
Yeah. See, and like that's a detail. That,
Yeah.
Like you,
Yeah.
like, you kind of have to check that box if you're trying to be competitive. In
In a
this
shady spot at Forest Hill, which isn't always easy to find
Yeah.
either.
No.
I will say, for returning runners, there are rule changes that like play a role here. Like for runners who are coming for the first time, they're like, all right, I don't really have to think about the fact that I can't pick up my pacer at Bath Road, that I can't be crewed from the top of Bath Road to our spot in Forest Hill, that I'm not allowed to pick up my aids or my pacer on the other side of the American River at Ruckachucky. Like I have to actually pick them up on the near side or at Green Gate. And like, I would be nervous as a returning runner, just like to kind of screw some of these rule changes up. And there are clarifications of rules in a good way, I think.
Yeah. So I've got Killian, Dan Jones, Adam Peterman, Caleb Olson, Peter Frano, Jeff McGavro at Forest Hill, like within 60 seconds of
Oh, I
each
like
other.
that. That's good. Peter Frano is a fun one.
Yeah, because I think Pete enough to not get dropped by that point. But like I feel like he's probably going to have burned a few too many matches for this go around. And then it's going to be of those who can play the game the best to the finish. And I think it's going to be Caleb Olson.
Oh, it'd be so cool.
Like his TGC this year was off the charts. And it's like, and one of the things that he wrote about in his Substack was finally being fit enough to play the game. Where it's like, it's not just about a fitness contest. It's like, we're all really fit, but it's like, who can play the game the best on race day? And if you get to be fit enough where you don't have to worry about like, oh, I'm not fit enough to cover this move. It's just simply like, do I make the decision to cover this move or not? That, I mean, that's just one of the advantages that you can have. So I think, and then there's the luck element of just all the things coming right. So I think it's going to be Caleb's day.
Brett, what do you think is the best shoe that's going to be in the top 10 this year?
I think.
Are we looking at it?
I think that's definitely one of them. I don't think there's like one best shoe anymore, which I love. I love that it's not just like one shoe. Like I think it's gonna be. I think we'll see a top 10 of all super foams.
Okay.
Like last year, Chris Myers was the only one who screwed that up wearing the S-Lab Genesis. He was the only one not in a super foam, and this year he gets to be in a super foam.
I was kind of hoping you were going to just like throw the curveball in there of Chris Myers. Coming in and winning.
Yeah, it's just like
I think Chris Myers had one of the most impressive races of this spring time with his Chuckanut win.
That was a good Chuckanut.
That was, I don't think that was very disrespected.
Most
performance.
disrespected.
Most disrespected
Chuckanut
50K.
win,
Yeah, Chuckanut win of all time.
Probably.
Yeah, he played the game very well there and took care of himself, and I think those are drastically different conditions from what we will see at Western States, but I think he showed how to take care of yourself in 50K. He's a fast guy. He showed what he could do in the top 10 last year, and I think we
It's
probably
not
didn't discuss him enough
uncommon-
today.
It's
But
not uncommon for people to improve by an hour
Yeah.
at Western States. If he does that, he's running 14:13 or something like that.
For what it's worth, I think there's certain people who, if we don't talk about them, it kind of ends up being more fuel
Yeah.
for their fire. And maybe I'm kind of secretly hoping that's the case here.
yeah.
Okay.
Who are you not talking about?
Yeah, should we just start throwing names
what
out
am
there
I
to?
talking about?
Who are you not talking about?
Yeah, Caleb Olson, Caleb Olson, Caleb Olson. The Salt Lake City crew, strong on Caleb Olson. I think they might know something.
I think Caleb is fit enough to do whatever is required in this field. That's for sure.
That's like I got like the vibe of like you will do whatever is required of you.
Sir, yes, sir.
Do what you were trying to do and kill them primary. Now I'm the one quoting the movies, man. Yeah, that's spooky to me. When Brett, when you were saying like fit enough to play the game, what crossed my mind was racing Trayson and Adam at Gorge, and Trayson making a move that was like, if I responded to that move, I think it would have buried me, and I was fit.
Yeah.
But like Adam, even killed. Like
Yeah.
certainly fit enough to respond to that move, and like very fit enough to play the game. I think there might be eight or so runners in this field that are in that boat.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see how this game plays out. It's
Should we do our
it's a
picks?
game.
Should we do our picks?
Like top
Like podiums.
podiums?
Podiums.
I could give a podium.
But I want to give a stat while we're thinking about it. I'm going to give a stat here because I find this very interesting. So this goes to the live stream. Let me pull this up 1 second. Live stream stats.
Did our live chat stop or?
No, it's still going.
No, we're good. I find this very interesting. So looking at the last 3 years of Western States coverage, between 2024 and 2023, we saw a 7% increase in viewership for the first 12-hour stream. And that was from 258,000 views to 277,000. But the year before that, we saw about a 45% increase. It jumped from 149,000 views to 258. So interesting that we had a huge increase from 22 to 23.
Courtney.
But then,
Right?
But what about Killian this year?
yeah, but then relatively modest from 23 to 24.
No Courtney.
No Courtney.
I mean,
Next step.
just to,
Yeah, yeah.
here's a question for you. Who
Way
is
to deduce
pulling
that.
Who is
Yeah.
pulling more viewers into the live stream?
Killian.
David Roche or Killian?
Oh, ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, because David Roche has a time zone advantage.
Yes.
He also
But
has
Sally
an
ran last year.
enormous following advantage.
Does David have a bigger following?
I mean, I think he has a devout following, but you might be right in that his devout following is already watching Western States. Killian, I think, will bring more European viewership and global viewership.
Yeah. That's a good one, though. Like, yeah. Which, does Killian have an emoji? Is it
No,
just
and
the
he doesn't
goat?
even need one. A
Is it
goat.
the
Probably the
goat?
goat, yeah.
The goat.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, like, what emoji are we going to see most of in the YouTube live chat?
Probably.
Like, dinosaur is going to be the little dinosaur. At the
I mean, probably just the hammer, because I'm going to be in that live chat. And I'm going to be hammering.
Dude, that's Cam Haynes. Western States changes people.
Yeah. I'm going to be hammering.
You know what I love about Western States though? Like, I mean, I think as long as I've been paying attention for at least like 15 years, just about every year,
That is too close for my
just
choice.
about every year, it's the most competitive field ever.
Yeah.
And that that's been like every single year we're having almost the exact same conversations, and it never
so exciting.
It
It
never
never
gets
gets
old.
boring.
Like it's 15 years so far into this or whatever, it hasn't gotten old.
Well,
for
there's
me.
always something new. Like, it's always most kind of, but like, there's like what was this the year of? I feel like the,
What's
the year
your
like,
prediction for the lesson
like
of this year?
This is like the heat training year.
Like the new version of heat training
and like
is here.
I feel like
it
we
seems.
saw a bit of a resurgence in massive long runs.
Yeah.
This year, like I feel like I saw more 40 to 50 mile long runs on
saw a
Strava
lot of
than-
high volume.
than I've ever seen.
I actually think this might be the year of
The boy.
transitions.
Yeah.
also have phenomenal legs.
I could see the times lag a little bit from like Forest Hills to the river.
Do you want to put something in the chat, Brenton, saying we're working on it and it's coming back?
Yeah.
Maybe. Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
Mingus.
no, you can't say Mingus. If you say Mingus, the audio breaks. That's what someone said.
All right. Okay.
Are we back?
Oh my God.
Oh man!
Thank God.
that-
Thank
that
God we did
storm-
not get
the
that
storm was over.
audio.
Gosh, it was raining so hard. The power's back on. We're back. We were going through our podium.
Well, yeah, we were just talking about the live stream,
Did
but let's.
anyone give a podium pick?
Not
No.
yet.
No one gave a single one.
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, David Roche.
My top three. I'm taking Caleb Wilson for the win. I believe he has all of the tools. I believe he's fit enough. I believe
What's
he
in
can
that
run
mug?
sub 14.
Jeez.
I've got Caleb Olsen for the win. I've got Killian Jornet in second place. And I've got Seth Ruling in third. Seth Ruling is my flyer. I believe Seth Ruling podiums.
I like that.
And I believe all three run sub 1405. And I believe the entire men's top 10 runs sub 1440.
So we had this
Book it.
exact same reaction last year. To
Yeah,
saying
you all
the top
laughed.
5 would
You
be
all
under
laughed.
15 hours.
I didn't watch it though.
He was like, I think the top 5 will be under 15. And we were all just like, you're high. And he was
I was high, but that's a separate conversation.
So we're at 6,500 feet. Okay, would you say top 5 under 1440? Or did you say
Top 10 under 1440. I've got top 10 under 1440.
No, maybe, actually.
Top 10 under 1440.
I mean,
Yeah, it
it's
could
not.
No disrespect to any current times.
Who's 10th place?
Ooh, that's fun.
10th place is Joe McConaughey for me.
Oh, that'd be really fun.
Jeff is 1439. Top 10.
All right.
I think we should all say who we think is 10th, too. That's
I
like
like
a
that.
nice.
I like that.
That's better than saying who we think will be 11th.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh.
That was. Oh,
I've been 11.
sorry, Jeff.
Sorry, Jeff.
Rod Farber's been 11th.
For what it's worth, I was told I broke the 11th curse.
What's the 11th curse?
Oh,
That-
yeah. What was that curse?
I think it was like back to Tim Tweetmeyer. So there's Scott something. There was the men's 11 the following year not being able to get men's
Oh,
top
okay.
10.
That's good. You broke it.
But I think then Rod really broke it.
That's a curse I can subscribe to.
Okay. You want to do your top 3, Mike?
Top 3.
Or yeah, top 3 and then number 10.
I mean, so I think Finn got called out. David called you out for not picking him for Javelina. So now you told this story earlier in the podcast
David
about
did
David
wire to
winning
wire.
wire to wire, and you're hoping that he tuned out after that. And now you gave your picks for Caleb to win, right? That's what just happened.
That's
right?
totally
That's what
right.
happens when you want to keep
That
all
was
your
a conscious
friends.
decision.
And for what it's worth, he also bet against Killian.
Like he's
Which I'm
smarter
sure
than
at
he
some
looks.
point we'll hear him say, I'm never betting against
Remember
Killian
that,
again.
remember that time you said Courtney wasn't going to win a race and then she went on to rampage the rest of that year?
I missed it by 3 years.
Okay.
But Finn's smarter than he looks. I think he's doing all this on purpose.
Yeah.
I wish there was a photographer getting this photo.
Okay, top 3. I mean, I think I'm going to keep with my story because I like my story where Killian wins. I want to see that 15 years later comeback victory. Like I want to see that. And I obviously think that Killian is talented enough to do it. So I'll go Killian in first. Yeah, I'll stick with my story. I think it would be really cool if Vincent got second. So Killian, Vincent, following it up from the Chianti race. Which I'm not sure I expect that, but I just think it'd be really cool. Third place is tough though. I think I'm gonna say Dan Jones.
So he's improving by 1
I
position
think
every
Dan
year.
is I just think he's so dialed and he's getting better and better. He's got the experience on the course.
Just the internationalization. This is an international.
Yeah.
That's a non-American podium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
10th place, Dan Green.
Nice. That's my 10th, too.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly think he could because I think this race is going to be so intense I doubt Dan Green is coming in with like podium expectations.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to want to get the most out of himself, and we know that he can bring himself out as good or better than anybody else. I saw that. I mean, getting to see that at Cocodona was just mind blowing. So I think there will be some carnage ahead of him. He'll be running a really great race, and honestly, that if he's 10th, I don't know if it's 1440, but I think he'll be 10th.
Okay.
Cool.
That's my story.
Yeah, good to know that
And he's sticking to it.
I'm a better friend to Caleb than you are. So we're going Killian number 1, Caleb number 2, Dan Jones number 3, and then we've got, I like Dan Green in 10th, but I think I'm going with like 1503 for him.
Okay.
And then I think String Bean's going to be like 1501.
Ooh.
They're going to have a fun battle, those
Okay.
two guys.
Okay.
So it's the year of the boy, but it'll be the day of the daddy.
Yeah, Year of the Boy, Day of the Daddy.
Nice.
Because, oh yeah, Dan Green's having a baby.
No way.
Yeah, they're doing September, I think.
Oh, wow.
So, Year of the Daddy, Day of
Day of the daddy.
Day of the Daddy, Year of the Boy,
Year of the daddy, day of the daddy,
Decade of the Daddy.
decade of the
The
daddy.
age of the daddy.
No more boys.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous
But on the surface, you look calm and ready, dude.
to drop bombs, but I keep on forgetting what I wrote down. I didn't write anything down that I said. Yeah, no notes. Before I said I had 6 in my mind and in play, I have not dove deep into like fantasy yet. And I have a hard time like actually committing to 3 of those 6 names.
But you must.
You can
Yeah.
you can change.
Yeah, it's just
But
what's
like
your
for
mind right now.
today- For today, who do you think's gonna win?
A snap, yeah.
I think we're going to see a repeat champion at Western States
Nice.
this year.
That's a
And I
good.
think that repeat champion is going to be Adam Peterman.
All right.
That's nice.
I think Adam Peterman in 2022 had this ascendancy of Peter God,
Yeah.
and I think it's rightfully placed. I think he's one of the most stupendous athletes in the sport. It's really hard to leave Dan Jones off a podium, especially this year. But I think, yeah, my trio that I'm all behind is going to be Adam, Rod, and Jeff.
Adam, Rod, Jeff. Okay.
And like Caleb and Dan Jones, maybe it's a 3-way tie for 3rd. Everyone's holding hands. But yeah, those guys they're so strong.
Who's your 10th?
I think we might see a Hans Troyer or a Chris Meyer repeat for 10th.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
What if 10th and 11th hold hands at the finish?
One of them has to fight to death.
Yeah.
Afterward. They
Oh,
both, yeah.
I was wondering if there was a
Afterwards.
loophole and they
Because-
just both get 10th.
No, they're gonna go to the foot score.
We just have to go again. Okay.
It becomes a last man standing race.
On the track.
On the track.
60-second quarters, 1 minute rest until you drop.
What do you got?
Who would win that?
Also,
I don't think anyone's dropping a 60-second quarter at the end of Western States.
I did have a dream last night. I really want to get deep into this dream, so stay with me.
Okay.
Just kidding.
I'll put my predictions away.
I had a Western States win in my dream where my shoe change was just changing into spikes on the track to run a 50-second like final 300 or like 40. Like I didn't do a shoe change until the track, and then I put spikes on in my dream to just rip the final
You have to carry
stretch.
the shoes with you from Point Rocks, though, right?
Yeah. Then you'll
From
It
point.
worked out in my dream.
That's incredible. All right, so I'm going to stick with my original story. So I think Caleb is winning.
It's
the
nice that you
race.
have integrity.
I think Caleb's going to make the separation somewhere around ALT because that's a solo aid station with no crew, and you have to be like pretty self-sufficient, and you can make mistakes there. Especially because the next one is also a solo aid station at Quarry Road, so it's kind of pivotal to not make mistakes, and you got to like be able to think, etc. And Caleb's good at thinking.
Yeah, he's smart. guy.
I think Killian's gonna get second, and like it's gonna be just nuts for Caleb to be like out kicking Killian at the end. And then I think Adam Peterman is going to be the one like raging for the
Yeah.
podium. And
nice
I think it's
podium.
just going to be at the slight miscalculation of one of these surges where Adam like does his steady Eddie thing, and it's just a
It's kind of like Hayden with
Slight
Rod
miss.
last year.
yeah, like just
Yeah.
an ever so slight miss. Like I think Hayden could have beaten Rod last
Yeah.
year if he just like, dealt his cards a little bit differently.
I just want to say, I love the diversity of podium picks in the chat here.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody's got a little something different.
And
And then
I
who's
think-
number 10?
I think Caleb breaks 14:20.
Okay.
I just watched the Diamond League Paris men's 5K, and it was more or less the same group that were in, I think it was Diamond League Oslo, like a couple weeks before, and they ran very fast. There was like an American record, and then they were all going to come back for Paris. They had the pacers and the pace lights set at world record pace because they just ran so fast. And they're like, okay, now there's like 3 guys. They're all going to, one of them surely has to run the world record. They all went out at world record. They lasted for, I think, 2 miles at world record pace. And then all 3 of them faded. And like they still won, like one of them still won the race, ran pretty fast, and it was a compelling race, but they did ultimately all still fall back from course record. And I could see something like that happening at this course where it's like we're on course record splits, just slight fade.
Yeah. That's why I think I don't see the sub 1440 top 10.
Because that would be like 20 minutes for
Yeah.
10 people, which, I mean, I guess could happen, but like has also never happened.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of guys in this field that think it's going to take at least like a low 14-hour time to win.
Yes.
And I think that's going to,
And I think they'll commit to that for a good portion, but like,
but it's going to cause some of that fading, I think.
yeah. And then it's like who can still compete really well off of like pretty trashed legs with 15 miles to go.
Yeah.
Real quick, down the line, projected winning times. What wins it?
14, 19, 46.
I want Jeff to say the exact winning time he said earlier.
1406.
Is that what he said earlier?
Oh, it was more fun than that.
Yeah.
Oh, 14 hours and 69 seconds.
What's Jim's course record?
1409.
1409.
1409 what?
I like the 1406, but I think I'll go 1407.34.
Okay.
Wait, is that? That's a number. Yeah. Okay.
1409.
Tied with Jim's course record to the second.
Under whatever the seconds are.
Okay,
Course
so
record by less than a
faster-
minute.
Oh, that would be because they can like see it. It's like a golden hour type finish where it's like the
Yes.
time is ticking down to Jim's course record and someone's kicking it in. And it's Caleb and he learns how to lift his knees.
Drive those
He
arms.
sprints his fastest
He's
300 ever.
Yeah, he actually drops a 40.
Carrying his child. His-
Marshall's just like,
What do you think?
Where's camera 1? Where's camera 2?
they're kind of right next to each other.
There's not a camera over there.
Yeah, but this is for added effect. 1356.
Sub 14.
For who did you say was going to win?
Caleb. Caleb is running
Caleb's gonna have
1356.
13:56.
14 or bust.
Yeah.
Sub 14 or bust.
And then Caleb is forever sad that he's actually really good at runnable stuff and he can't play in the mountains anymore.
Womp womp.
I have two comments. One, I just think about Caleb is really interesting is that he ran 1440 last year in his first 100-miler. I'm like, he was just kind of having
was kinda
fun.
dicking around the mountains.
training,
Yeah.
like no structure to his training. He's been extremely focused for like a year at least now since then. So I think it's very reasonable to expect him to improve significantly on that 1440. The other question I have though is, what are the chances we see anyone from the women's race in the overall top 10 this year? Because that's sometimes an interesting storyline. And if we see some fading from that high 14s time frame, and then
I
that
think,
could
like-
segue into the women's preview conversation. But
I don't think we will. I think Courtney's course record, it still could very well be at risk. I think, I think Fujao, I think there's a couple women who could go for it, but I don't think we're going to, like, I do think we might see 10 guys under 15. I don't think we're going to see a woman under 15.
I think like 13th place.
Yeah.
Mike, for this episode, can you restate the point you made about women's Black Canyon times this year and their translation to states?
I forget what the point was exactly, but basically Riley and Tara's Black Canyon times are pretty similar to some people who have run like at least in the 15s at Western States, like pretty similar Black Canyon times.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's
8
just
hours
one.
ish.
Yeah, that's just one obviously extrapolation, but yeah, I don't know.
We love ends of one here on the
Yeah.
single
Ends of
track.
two.
Yeah.
That was an end of two.
Oh, yeah,
I-
end of two.
Yeah.
I like have a ton of belief in Caleb, but I sometimes think that when you go from that like fun, really enjoying your time in the mountains to a year of like very structured training, it also can be a little bit dangerous. But something you said earlier was like he surprised himself so much at Western States, and then he surprised himself so much at TGC. Like, I do think he's one of the runners in the field that we really don't know his ceiling, which is so compelling.
Yeah.
And like, Killian's the best to ever do it. Like, I feel like we have a better idea of his ceiling, which badass, it's often like whatever it takes to win. But yeah, like
That's a good point.
Caleb is, I think, one of the most compelling runners in the sport right now.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to say my M10,
Yeah, let's hear it.
Adrian McDonald.
Oh, that's a good one too.
And
yeah.
I think it could be, he's one who's, I think, eligible for a very fast M10 time. Like, I think he could run
yeah.
under 15 hours.
Definitely.
Definitely.
It'll be faster than his Leadville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was his Leadville? I don't even know.
Leadville's
Low
like 16 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. High 15s, low 16s.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely fast.
Jeff was like insulted.
Yeah. Excuse me.
I have
Just
no
goes to
context
show.
of Leadville times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I think that'll open the door for Adrian to then run it next year and like just get the kinks out of
Yeah.
the system, because he is one of those people that's like,
He projects stuff. Yeah.
yeah, did it for Leadville. And Western States is a hard one of those races to do without getting in the top 10.
Well, I think this is a good place to put a pin in it. This was our men's field preview episode. Thanks to Jeff, thanks to Mike, thanks to Leah, thanks to Brett for adding value.
Thank you, Finn.
Yeah. I haven't heard you say put a pin in it in a while. Bring it back.
It's a perfect place to put a pin in it. And I don't have a pin, but I do have this opener to the LaCroix, this tab. I
got a knife.
I can put it.
That's on a night. I wish I was.
Trying to set you up for it.
But just for folks that are looking forward to tomorrow, we have a packed schedule. We've got God Farvard coming into studio. We've got Abby Hall, who's got a great story heading into this year's race. We've got Jim Walmsley coming in, and we've got a women's field preview. So stacked day. We got four shows on deck. Thanks to everyone for joining, and thank you to our sponsors, Norda, NAC, Goreware, and Raid for making this possible. See you tomorrow.
Woo.